Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome back, everybody. Today I am here with Mark Flanders. He is the owner of Blue Hill Building Co., located in Bridgewater, Virginia. Excited to have you on Builder Stories, Mark.
Great. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah. So, we've been working together for, I don't know, quite a while now, but, why don't you give your story? How'd you get into construction in the first place? How'd you start your company? What do you guys do? Kind of give us the usual backstory there.
Okay. So, I kind of grew up a little bit in the building business. My father, was in the building business, and, in high school, I took drafting, and I kind of got interested in sort of the design side of things. And basically came at it from that perspective, was designing additions and things like that for my father's company when I was about 16, and took lessons from a local guy that we knew on, how to use CAD. This is back when it was DOS based and command prompts and all that. And actually started taking some college courses for architecture, and then just decided to dive right into it. And so kind of took over my father's business, and basically in 1998 started taking that over. And by 2000, it was my business, and me and my brother were running it. And that was actually in New Hampshire, which is where I'm from, and kind of grew up there and did that for about 15 years or so in New Hampshire. And then, the Great Recession hit, and my career took a little bit of a different path, and ended up actually working at, I had actually been one of the early adopters of CoConstruct back in like 2005, and ended up working for them at one point, and that's what brought me to Virginia, and then eventually got back into building. And about a year ago, I came across JobTread, spoke with you at the Builder Show a year or so ago, I guess about a year and a half now, and that's where I'm at here in Virginia now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you took over your dad's business, and then you and your brother were running it, and then recession came. You ended up going and working for CoConstruct. What did you do at CoConstruct?
I was their product manager, so I was in charge of designing the new features and figuring out how to make that, how to add new features like estimating and bidding and all that.
You must have been one of the first employees, because Donnie and I have since kind of become friends a little bit. We've been talking here and there just about his experience kind of after he sort of exited, but I know he started it in 2005, so you must have been really early on.
Yeah, so there's there's a couple little stops in between. I went to work for them in like 2014, I think, and I was employee number 15 in the company.
Okay.
Everyone was virtual before I got there, and then we opened up an office and sort of gathered everybody up.
Gotcha. So, yeah, started working on construction technology, and then ended up going back into the field. So you're building homes. Is that kind of the main focus?
We do mostly remodeling.
Okay.
So we are actually doing our first couple homes here in Virginia, small sort of like cabin, Airbnb kind of rentals for some people, vacation style homes. But here in Virginia, I've been doing mostly additions, bathrooms, kitchens, basements, whole house remodels, anything from a $25,000 deck to $700,000 gut renovation is kind of our average project is probably $200,000 or something.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty wide gamut though that you've got there.
Yep.
So I'm curious, because I guess both of us we've been on the construction side and the software side. What led you to want to go and start your own company?
So, I that's what I've always done. So since 2000, I was running my own company. and sort of just took over my father's company and grew it from a small operation doing a few $100,000 a year to doing 3 million plus or so with a dozen employees. And so, then the Great Recession hit or whatever, and, ended up, down here and decided to go back out to building. The corporate world, I kind of figured out wasn't really my game. I had one other corporate job besides CoConstruct, and it just wasn't for me. That's, when you're used to sort of running the show, it's hard not to do that.
Yeah. So you'd say you've got the entrepreneurial blood just through and through.
Yeah. I like to do my own thing. Yep.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So, when you went from working with your family and your brother to, is your brother involved in this one, or is he kind of still off?
No, in fact, he wasn't too far on into the business that we actually spun. We had sort of another business that was part of that business, and we kind of spun it off, and he did that. And so we kind of separated before a few years into it, spun off another business for him to run. Right. And so was running it on my own for many years.
Nice. So what would you say, I guess, again, you had, sounds like a lot of great experience from doing this, with your previous business to this one. Like, did you find it easier, harder, like any surprises having to start from scratch?
I would say it was a little bit, I wouldn't say it was any harder. It was different, because when I sort of took over my father's business, like we had established vendors and trade partners and all that stuff. So I didn't have to do that legwork, so to speak. But we really grew it into a different business than it was. So there were some challenges with sort of growing and breaking into new markets and that sort of thing. And just the learning curve. I mean, when I did that, I was in my early 20s and, had not a lot of real life experience or business experience or construction experience for that matter. And so, it was a lot of learning curve that way. And so this time when I started my business, I didn't have any of those relationships down here in terms of vendors, suppliers, trade contractors, and I didn't have sort of an automatic customer base and all that, or name recognition. But I did have lots of years of experience, and I had done it before. So there's a lot of stuff I didn't have to relearn.
Sure.
So it was, I wouldn't say it was harder or easier. It was just a different set of challenges.
Yeah. Did you start off working like in the field on the projects, or did?
Yeah, the first few projects for sure. I was out there. I found a good, local carpenter that I got made a connection with, and we got out there and started swinging hammers on the first few. And then I was managing projects, and he was sort of leading them, and then he didn't work out, and then it was just me, just being a GC.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more? So basically, you've been working in the field on the on the projects. You had a carpenter. He ended up going off, so you took back over full time. Is that are you still working day in and day out in the field, or you out?
No, not. I haven't been in the field for a long time now, for several years, and So basically, I'm managing subcontractors, and all our work is performed by subcontractors. So I've sort of built up. I guess it's been about 7 years now that I've been here in Virginia, and so I've built up a good base of trade contractors, and I've got some good carpentry crews and some crews that basically are, I'm probably 85% of their work for the year, so they kind of do whatever we ask them to do, and so they're not quite employees, but they take care of a lot of different roles for me in the field. So we're just, and we've actually, thanks in large part to JobTread, we've grown a lot over the last 2 years in terms of dollars and projects, and so I just can't afford any time to be swinging the hammer anyway.
Yeah. And so you've always, it sounds like, kind of preferred to keep people as subs, and then, do you have any other employees, or is it just you?
I have one employee who basically is sort of a executive role. He's sort of new to construction and learning that. His construction experience is about, his 2 years with me. But he's got some good life experience and business experience and people skills. And so he's heading up business development, and we're, sort of for the first time putting some systems in place in terms of how we sell jobs and market ourselves a little bit, and that sort of stuff. Just stuff that I've never done before. So,
sure. So where did you find your guys? Where did you find your subs? I hear all the time people really struggle, to find good quality workers, whether employees or subs. Like, how did you find that initial group?
So the best source of subs I find is other subs or suppliers, right? So I got several of my first core subs were the carpenter that I had initially that was working with me is from the area. He knew a lot of people, had worked for other builders, so he introduced me to some folks. And then, like, my supplier, I'd say, hey, I need somebody that can do this. Do you know anybody? And so it's usually just by asking other suppliers or other builders that I've run into and are friendly and that sort of thing. So it's really just asking other people in the trade. So I've done some projects, say, for a landscaper, and then they'll point me to somebody that can do this other thing. And so it's really just networking is how I find is the best way. Every once in a while, we just do a Google search and start calling people, but most of the time we're getting recommendations from somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I hear a lot of people also concerned, that not having them as full-time employees, that maybe they can't control the quality as much or can't control their schedule. How do you address those challenges?
Yeah, that is a double-edged sword, because and I've always had, for years, when I was in New Hampshire and operating, I had, 3 lead carpenters and carpenters helpers and stuff. So we had a crew of 12 people, and yeah, you get a degree of control and consistency, but you also get a lot of additional headache. And so one of the things that I found is, particularly if you're a little bit smaller, is you're spending a lot of time making sure that guy has something to do the next day, versus a sub. If you don't have something to do for him the next day or next week, it doesn't matter, and you don't have to supply them with tools and make sure their truck is working and all that other stuff. So I find that it frees up a little bit of my managerial time to use subs. And actually, I talked to several people when I was at Job Tread Connect, and just sort of confirmed, because I was thinking about trying to hire an in-house crew to do a couple of certain things. And I talked to some people, and they all said, don't do it. It's just, even if you're doing the same thing over and over again, just stick with subs. And I think it's actually working pretty well for us. And I think it just means you have to do business a little differently. You have to find a good subgroup, and you may have to, go through a few guys to get to the right one. And you can still have the quality control. We're working on trying to get checklists developed and things like that, so that we can hand these guys the tools to ensure we'll get more consistent quality. It's when you're small enough that you are personally managing every job, it's a different deal. But once you get to where you have 3 or 4 going at once, and you might not be there for every aspect of it, what we're finding is we really just need to step up our game in terms of communication, checklists, emails, that sort of thing, to keep the quality consistent. And you do have to go out and look at stuff and correct it when it's wrong. And sometimes that'll happen and cost you money, but that happens with employees too. I don't think it's any less of a fight to keep employees doing your quality standard than it is subcontractors, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a great point. When you do the estimating, is that, is that something that you're still involved in, or you said you've got someone kind of doing some business development? Like, kind of tell us about your sales and estimating process.
Yeah. So I'll tell you on the sales side that one of the things because I've always, been a small enough company where basically I was the sales guy, and I would go out and meet with potential customers and talk with them and all that, and do the estimates and everything. That whole process was always me. I never really had a good, sort of documented process. And now what I'm finding is that we've made a couple little tweaks that have made a huge difference, and I think we have a few more that we have to keep doing. But so one of the things that we did is so Chris, that works with me, is in charge of business development, which doesn't mean that I don't meet with the customer and I'm not involved in the estimate still, because I just have the expertise to do that. But it means that somebody else is watching the process and making sure we flow through the process correctly. And so when we get a call in, we have qualifying questions to make sure it's worth our time to go sit down with them and meet with them in person. And then when we meet with them, we don't have a script or anything like that, but we have certain questions that we make sure we cover. Certain, like, we need to know about budget and time frame, and why now? What's driving you to do this job? And, how did you hear about us? And all these things that we just make sure we go through with them. And then what has been the one thing that has been the most pivotal for us in our growth is deciding that before we left an appointment with a customer, we would set the next appointment. And so, in all the years past, I would just say, okay, well, it might take us 2 or 3 weeks to get this estimate put together, and we'll get back to you, and leave. And now we go, you know what, we should be able to do this estimate in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever it is. So 2 weeks from now is, Thursday the 13th or whatever. Can you meet with us at 3:00 on that day? And that would force us to get the estimate done by that time. And we just started that as a discipline at the first of this year, and we sold our entire year out in about 5 weeks.
Wow.
Between the middle of January and like the end of February. And it was, that one thing was probably the biggest factor in that.
So before you were doing that, I mean, like, did you have trouble getting a hold of them again, or did they not, were they not reviewing your proposal, or were they still shopping around with others, or maybe this took them off the market?
Yeah, it just would drag out forever. So I wouldn't, I think we would lose some opportunities because we didn't get back to people in time. I know we had that happen. Yeah, I got someone else, or I talked to someone else and they were able to, take care of it, or you just would have somebody out there, but you didn't have a signed contract. So you think you have work, but then, something might change. And so I just found, like, I just wanted to be sure about the work we had ahead of us. We wanted to make some decisions about, everything from hiring a marketing company to do our website and do some social media stuff, and, vehicle purchases and just all the other planning stuff that you want to do out, that I wanted to have some surety about what the year looked like. And I said, we're just going to, be disciplined about getting this work signed up rather than wishy-washy about it. And another little thing that we did, we found that, sometimes you get caught up in, well, we have to get the plan and we have to get all these details and everything before we can get a final price and all that. But people wanted to have a place in the schedule. And we found that what worked really well is we'd tell people, okay, we're going to go back after the first appointment. We're going to go back and we're going to spend enough time on this to come up with a budget, at least a range, just to make sure that what you want to do is realistic in the budget that you have to spend. And then we can come back and sit down and talk about that. And if that looks good to you, we can do a letter of intent. And so we've done several of these this year where we don't have the finished plans yet, The customer has the money to spend, and we went through the budgeting process and came up with a budget, and we said, we think this project's going to be between 140 and 170, and we'll be able to do this, 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 and this for you. And we put that in a letter of intent, and they sign it and give us a $5,000 deposit, and we say, this holds your spot in the schedule while we work through the rest of this, because right now I can book you for November. 3 weeks from now, a month from now, I might be booking you for next spring. And so we did that with people, and we had probably 3 or 4 projects that we signed on letters of intent, and we're in the process of converting those to final construction agreements. But we have, firm commitments with a deposit for that work, and so we know that's on the schedule.
That's great. So does that $5K though? I assume that's kind of basically like a deposit towards the work, the project. So if they end up pulling out, which I'm curious, has anyone ended up deciding they don't want to move forward?
No, and in my career and all the time I've been doing, when you get money from somebody, I've had one person that I can recall, maybe 2 in 20 years, that gave you a check and then for some reason decided not to go forward, and we gave it back.
Okay,
and we gave, I would say, like we gave it all back minus like $1,000 for, I said, hey, we spent some time on this. Would it be fair to, and if they had said no, I would have just given the $5,000 back. That's a small enough amount of money that it doesn't kill us to give it back.
Sure.
But it's enough of a commitment for them to move forward. So generally, when you get that, when you get a signature in any check of any size, there's a commitment there, that person feels, and then you're moving forward.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like that 2 week kind of, we're going to schedule the next meeting was even more beneficial to you internally, to just give yourself a deadline.
Correct.
Make sure that you get it done and you get back out there. I mean, because again, you hear all the time contractors go out, visit someone, go out on site, look at the project, but then they never get back to the customer, and it's like, it's a very frustrating experience from the homeowner, from the property owner standpoint. So, if that's what it takes to make sure that you follow through and get them, enough, because obviously you can't spend all of your time, kind of chasing this potential customer, if you will. But it sounds like you've got a really good process to make sure that you get them what they need, and then deliver that letter of intent and give them enough to be able to move forward with you.
Yeah. And I'll say, in the past, I try not to be that guy, but in the past, if you're busy, if you got a lot of work going on, obviously that gets the higher priority. I mean, that's how we all operate, right? What's in front of you and needs to get done gets your attention. But you know what? If there's something on the schedule and you promised Mary Jo homeowner that you're going to be there tomorrow with an estimate, then I figure something out and get an estimate done. And I think 1 or 2 times we've had to call someone and say, you know what, for whatever reason, I need this piece of information from this other sub, or I'm waiting on something, or, something came up, we have to reschedule, but we'll push it a few days and not a month, and people are understanding of that. And we just get a lot of people are super happy that we're calling them back, that they call us or email us and we get back to them and we schedule something right away. And then we get an estimate right away. And it makes us look way more professional than probably 90% of the guys out there, just by calling back and showing up when you say you're going to show up.
Sure. And what level of detail are you going into to turn around this ballpark estimate, as you say? I mean, is it, how are you kind of, sort of gauging, this low end and this high end of this range? Like, are you kind of figuring that, using the good, better, best kind of selection model, or how is it that you kind of come up with that range that you feel confident enough, to move forward?
It depends on the job. So certain types of jobs, we can almost just do the full-on estimate. So if someone comes to me for a kitchen, right? When we go out there to do that first visit and meet with them, I'll give a plug to Render. We go out there with our iPad and do a render that gives us the drawing of the space, and we go back to the office, and I can basically talk with, spend a few minutes talking with our kitchen supplier, and basically we have the quantities of flooring. We know roughly what they're going to do, and we have a pretty good template built in job tread, so we can basically do a full-on estimate with allowances. So they haven't picked out everything, but we can say, based on what we've talked about with you and the amount of cabinets you have here and stuff, we think you're going to spend $25,000 on cabinets, so that's the allowance for that. Put allowance in for appliances, allowance in for sinks and counters and tile flooring or wood flooring, whatever it is. And then we know about what it's going to take to demo it and do all that. And so for a kitchen, we'll put together a full-on proposal just with allowances and give it to them, 2 weeks later, ready to sign. If it's a job that's a bit more complicated, an addition, this or that, and maybe we don't even have full-on plans. So we had one. It was a kitchen renovation plus like tearing off of this existing sunroom and then putting up a new room in its place and dining room and all that. And I didn't really have, we didn't have finished plans, but they had some concept plans. And it's not like I could go to my estimating templates and say, I have a template just for this job, or I've done one just like this. But I basically could, when you've been in the business for a while, you have enough experience to go, this is really similar to this other job in this way, and this other job in this way. And I'll look at those two things, and I'll also look at the cost versus value report that Remodeling Magazine puts out every year. And I feel like that's a pretty good guide to help keep me, they have things like a upscale kitchen remodel and a mid-grade kitchen remodel and a master suite edition and an upscale master suite. And I can take a look at that and say, this is probably similar to that kind of a job. That job, according to the Remodeling Magazine in my market, they're saying it's, $400 a square foot. So, and this job's this many square feet. And I'll just make some adjustments and I'll come at it that way. And then I'll compare it to something else, and I'll just sort of look at it 2 or 3 different ways.
Sure.
And find if my numbers agree, and say, yeah, I'm sort of getting the low end of this, and even if I feel like I'm settling on a pretty good number, I'll give them a range and say, might be a little less, but it might be a little more. So it's a lot of that comes with experience and knowing what sources to go to, and just having done, a number of different jobs and kind of comparing it. So there's no like one way that I come up with that number. And like I said, sometimes it's a finished estimate that, that second meeting. Like if it's a deck, we have a template, we just plug in the numbers and we come back, here's your proposal for your deck. There's no allowances, like this is it, it's ready to sign.
Sure.
And if it's an addition, it's a range maybe with a letter of intent.
So how, it sounded like, and earlier you kind of said that, that you may be booking several months out. You use the example of even in November or something like that. How far out are you booking? And is it dependent on like the type of job and the crews that that you're going to need for it? Or is it just kind of any other factors? It seems like that's a ways out to ask the homeowners to hold on and get on the schedule. So why do you, how does that work, and kind of why do you think that people are willing to move forward, even though knowing it might be several months?
Yeah, luckily people still have the mentality that it's still hard to get a good contractor these days for projects, and so people are willing to wait a little bit, and they come at you assuming that you're booked out and can't start next week in most cases. They kind of ask you how bad is your backlog, and so we're basing when we're booking on, we've kind of said we have resources to do 4 projects at a time. That's what we can handle right now without sort of feeling like we're underwater. And so we kind of map that out. This one's going to end this date. This is going to start, and just make sure we sort of do a Gantt chart of all the jobs and just make sure that we're not, over promising. And so right now we're actually booking into spring of next year. That's where, if you came to me today, that's what I'd be telling you. And, that happened, like I said, in about a span of maybe 5 or 6 weeks earlier in the year. And one of the things that we did that I've never done before that I'm going to do like all the time now because it was the best. We sent out an email because last year, in the spring, everyone comes out of the woodwork and you kind of have a flood of booking things, and the year got kind of booked up pretty fast. And so this year, at the beginning of the year, to sort of get ahead of that, I emailed all my existing clients. And basically the email said, hey, we anticipate that this year is going to be busy like it was last year and that we're going to get booked up fairly quickly in the spring. We want to give priority to our good customers like you. If you have something that you're thinking about for any time next year, please call us now so we can reserve the space in our schedule for you. And out of that email, we got 4 jobs, and within, several weeks. And, one of them, they knew they weren't going to do it till the fall, but we, that email made it clear what they needed to do. So they reached out and we, booked their kitchen for November.
That's awesome. So these are all like basically kind of add-on jobs or kind of or repeat customers. Maybe you did something earlier for them. They weren't quite ready to do everything. And now you can come back.
We have lots of customers where we'll do a deck. A couple of years later, we'll do a kitchen. We might do an addition. We have a customer that we did, two bathrooms, and now we're going to go add a master suite. We have customers that we just do something every couple of years. We do something for them. And, the other thing that we added in that email was, hey, if you know somebody, a friend, like we love referrals, just reminding people, hey, don't forget to mention our name to some of your neighbors and stuff. And so I think it's good just to get in front of those people and remind them about you, that you're here, that you like work. And these are all customers that like working with us and they're happy to refer us.
Yeah.
So we're giving them the chance to do it.
That's great. Earlier you mentioned that you, I guess, are kind of started working on a website. What are you doing from a marketing standpoint, to drive that top of the funnel, or has it entirely been just word of mouth and referrals? And
it has been 100% word of mouth and referrals. And I don't say that. Some guys say that to brag. I say that and as sort of I'm sort of kicking myself. Like I don't want that to be the case. I would like to drive more through marketing efforts, and I just never. I haven't typically needed to because we focus on customer service and we just don't leave behind unhappy customers. We tend to get a lot of referrals, and the kind of people that we work for, we get lots of repeat business from the same people. So that's good, and I'm proud of that. But I feel like it's not good business to not have a good sales funnel. And I'll tell you that just sending that email and getting that response from those existing customers, it like gave me the taste of, okay, there's levers I can pull to bring people in the door, and I need to figure that out and work on that. So made some, that part, one of the things I was looking for at Job Trade Connect was to make some connections with some vendors out there and stuff, and talk to people about, okay, how do I take this next step and not just throw up a website, but do something good that will actually be a good conversion tool. So I've been doing some reading on that and everything, and I've been slow to pull the trigger, but it's time. So hopefully that's one of our goals this year, is to make sure that we don't end the year without having our website up and running and generating some leads.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
I mean, but let me ask you this, it sounds like you've got, kind of typically running about 4 concurrent projects. Let's say you start getting, a couple really hot leads coming in every week, at some point, your backlog is just going to get so far out there that do you anticipate looking to try to increase, the number of crews that you got and be able to take on more projects at once? Or
Absolutely. That is definitely the goal. One of the things, and I'm trying not to grow too quickly and put the cart before the horse, partly because I've been through the Great Recession and I remember what that felt like. And I want to make sure I don't get out ahead of myself in terms of, overhead and payments and lots of mouths to feed and all that. But also, I've been realizing, hey, in order to do that effectively without causing a ton of headache for myself and losing money, because, you can do twice the work and make half the money.
Yep.
If you do it right, So trying to get some systems in place and JobTread and JobTread Connect and sort of all that has been super helpful in helping me kind of see, all right, here's how I need to do that. And, sort of working through those steps of here's the things I need in place so that I can effectively hire someone to be a project manager.
Yeah.
And that's, sort of where I'm at is in the steps leading up to, I know I'm going to need to be able to hire a few people to do some key roles if I want to continue to grow, and which I do. That's part of my goals is to, and I'll tell you, one of the things in your email, some of the, questions and stuff that we might talk about, how do you know when you've made it? And for me, I was thinking about that. I'm not there yet. When I'll feel like I've made it when I can go away on a vacation and not bring my work bag or my laptop and not worry about it and know that, I have people that cover it. So that's, in order to do that, I have to grow.
Yeah. I
can't stay a two-man company and expect to go on vacation and nobody need me. That's not how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So definitely looking for that next step to grow and add people and systems so that, we can make more money, we can serve more clients, and I can, sort of meet that goal of go on vacation and not have to run things from the beach or whatever.
Yeah. So do you build do you have like an annual budget that you're working on that, where you've got, an annual goal, you got monthly goals, how do you kind of go about thinking about, what do you need to make every month? What do you want your net income to be? Things like that.
Yeah. So, I find that monthly goals aren't super helpful in my business because, we can do, we can have a month where we could do 50,000 and the following month we could do 250, just depending on how things hit.
Yeah.
So I look at it more on an annual basis, and we do have a sales target that we're trying to hit this year. And that's largely based, we looked at what we did last year. Then frankly, we signed up all this work and we looked at, okay, in order to get all this work done, this is what we're going to have to do this year. We're going to have to do, and our target is that we'll need to sell $2.5 million this year. And last year we did about 1.7 million in sales or in revenue, and we sold. So revenue versus sales, revenue we took in versus dollars of jobs that we sold. We actually sold a little bit less last year than we produced because of backlog we had from the year before. And so this year I'm looking to sell a little bit more than we produce. So we have a sort of a revenue goal and a sales goal, both number of projects and total dollars.
Do you think with the same size team that you've got that you'll be able to execute on enough work to hit that goal?
Yes, I think I'm going to run myself a little ragged to do it. But we can, I mean, part of that's inflation, right? So it's almost like you get the work goes up by 10% and it doesn't change how much work you've done.
Yeah.
But the dollars go up. We based on what we've been doing and the size project. So it does depend on the project mix, and we happen to have two projects coming up that are both in the $600,000 to $700,000 range, which helps you. You can do more dollars in a shorter period of time with bigger projects.
Sure.
So we tend to do higher margin on the smaller projects because you need to make up the difference. Just with our mix of projects and everything, we believe we can execute on like 2.3 million in revenue and 2.5 million in sales is what we're shooting for.
So, a lot of times when I talk to people, I find that they either gravitate towards inside the home or outside. Sounds like you're doing a little bit of a mix of both with, you've got kind of the exterior, the decks, the, I guess decking. I don't know what else you might do outside. So you got the inside.
The only strictly exterior project we do is decks. We don't do like reside your house or replace your windows. We're just not cost effective. And the only reason really we actually do a fair bit of deck work, and the only reason we do it is it's sort of an easy to turn project.
Yeah.
We're able to go in a couple of weeks, get it done, get out, and it works well to fill space with those and stuff. And you can still do something nice for people, but I don't get into like, hey, I need to replace my vinyl siding or
gotcha
that kind of stuff. Most of the projects we do are more intricate renovations.
Yeah.
Kitchens, whole house. We'll gut and redo a whole house. We'll do a master suite addition, stuff where we're really, into the person's home and so yeah, we're the more intricate projects is more what we gravitate to, but we do some decks. They're kind of fun projects that I just happen to enjoy.
It's interesting because, we've, obviously we've got, a lot of deck builders on here. And I find that sometimes when people, sort of figure out about the deck building industry, I mean, it's definitely a whole lot easier to, come in, tear out a deck, put it right back, versus when you get into someone's kitchen, now you're dealing with them, having to, either live in the house while you're doing the construction or they got to move out. You got a whole bunch more unknowns. Who knows what's going to be there when you open up a wall. Well, right. You take out a deck, it's going to be there and you're going to be able to put it right back. So,
well, you say that, but we've done decks where we tear them off and do $10,000 worth of rot repair.
Oh, that's true.
So we find that one of the things that, people will ask us to come out and that, hey, can you just, tear off this decking and give me new decking and rails, but save my frame? And we just decided a couple of years ago, we don't do that. If you want me to tear off your whole deck, I'll do that. And I tell people, it's like, the problem is I don't know what your footings look like, and I don't know what's behind this when I rip the rim off your house. And most of the time it's that I do that, I find that it's not good, And
do you find for your bigger projects, your interior projects, I mean, is the homeowner, are they moving out, or are they trying to live with the construction going on?
Most people, unfortunately, live with the construction.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, we'll get lucky and get someone to move out, and we often suggest it. Sometimes we'll get people, we'll do like the worst part of it while they're on vacation or something like that. But I think oddly enough, a lot of people just like to be around to see what's going on. And most people just don't have another place that they can easily go and live.
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, most of the jobs we do, the customer is right there, they're living in it.
So thinking about, again, this new website, this new face of the company that you're going to have here some point this year, like where do you see yourself really trying to kind of focus in on? I mean, are you going to kind of try to market to, both the decks and the interior, the kitchens, the remodels, the additions, or like, do you see yourself kind of really primarily targeting that, that kind of sweet spot for you, the, a couple $100,000, interior remodel?
Yeah, I think most of it's going to be around the what I would say not high end, but sort of mid range and up, bathroom, kitchen, addition type market. And we'll have a page that talks about decks, and we'll still go after that. I don't know. Part of that might be, sometimes I find that in business, opportunities come along and you just take advantage of them when they come, right? And you sort of like that sort of end up bouncing around in the back of my head. How do I do it? And one of these days I'll probably stumble across a really good sub crew that does a really great job on decks and likes to do decks, right? And when I do, maybe I'll get aggressive. I feel like there's a few things we went into a neighborhood and we did a deck on a house, and we did 2 other decks of like next door neighbors within months, because that whole neighborhood, all their decks are like 30 years old and they're literally falling off the houses. Like these people were like, we don't let our kids out on our deck because we're afraid it's going to fall down. And then we went to the house next door and like, we don't let people out on our deck. We're afraid it's going to fall down. And so we thought, if we had some capacity and we wanted to book some stuff up, we could probably just send a mailer out to that neighborhood and say, hey, we noticed most of the decks in your neighborhood are about to fall off the house. Is that you? Maybe you could give us a call. Your neighbor did, and they're super happy, kind of thing. And I think if we had the capacity to handle it, that would be a great revenue stream. I'm just not in a place where I'm looking to attack that right now and bring all those leads in, because I just would be pulling my hair out trying to deal with it.
Sure. I can tell you really enjoy though the construction, building, delivering the value for the customer. And what would you say, like, what do you enjoy the most out of running this business and working for your customers?
Yeah, so I would say it is helping people, bring their vision to life. You know what I mean? I enjoy standing back and seeing the finished product and going, that's good. I like saving people from doing dumb things with their money. To be honest, the people want, I'd like to do this and put this room over here. And so, well, have you thought about, what are you really trying to accomplish with that? And they tell you and say, well, what if we did it this way? And they go, oh. And so I really like that. I really like coming in and sharing my expertise and like helping them come up with something that they haven't thought of yet. Or even if they have finished plans that they work through with an architect, bringing that, a contractor can make or break a good plan, with how they execute on it. So I like to help guide people through that process. Frankly, if I could do that and all my bills just got paid and I didn't have to like make out bills and do estimates and all that other stuff that goes along with it, that'd be great. I would be happy to just do that. But unfortunately, you have to do all the other stuff in business just to stay in business.
My follow-up question is, what is your least favorite part of the job?
My least favorite part of the job is dealing with money, to be honest with you. It's I don't like to have uncomfortable conversations, there's a big bill for a customer or a subcontractor, where you have to go tell, hey, I have to back charge you. Look, you broke this thing, you did this thing. Like, I don't like to have those. I don't like to have confrontation like that. That's my sort of least favorite, is dealing with that kind of nonsense. Customer thinks they've been overcharged for something, and you have to go get all the backup and show them, no, you didn't overcharge them, or find out, whoops, I did make a mistake, I would love to not have to deal with any of that and just build nice stuff for people. That would be great.
Yeah. And are you, are these jobs that you're selling, are they, fixed price, or are you doing, cost plus, open book type jobs?
Do a mix. Yeah. Do a mix, but we've resolved to do more fixed price. I think when you do time and materials, it can be easier in some ways in that, if you've got the right client, and I like to have discussion with the client up front to determine whether they're the right client for time and materials. But if you have the right client and everything's not really decided up front, but they still want to get going, or just the result is more important to them than the budget, great. Time materials is fine. But what I find is I can make more money on fixed price. So we've resolved to do a better job of putting the work in up front to get some details nailed down and try to come up with a fixed price proposal where we can do it. Now, we get into some jobs where it's just not possible. Yeah. When you're going to gut a whole house and the client is just going to make a bunch of this, you sort of have to make decisions as you go when you open it up and see what's going to happen. And, we had a job where when they first started talking to me, they thought their budget was $250. I told them, I think it's more like $450. And when all was said and done, they spent more like $7. Oh. And they didn't care. It didn't bother them that they spent $7. And I didn't anticipate in the initial discussions with them that they were going to spend, 25 on tile in one bathroom, or buy a $2,000 faucet. And so you just couldn't have done that project on fixed price. There just would have been no way to do it.
Yeah.
So we, depending on the job, we can do either.
Yeah. How do you manage your bookkeeping?
So I do have a sort of part-time contract bookkeeper. And so I get all my invoices from all my suppliers nearly 100% through email. And I will tag them with what job and cost code they're for, and whether or not they're billable, depending on the kind of job it is, and just forward those on to the bookkeeper. He puts them all in, and then when it comes time to do the customer bills, I do that myself, because I am familiar with the contract, whether it's a fixed price and what point we're at. And that's all being currently entered into QuickBooks and then pushing to JobTread. We hope to make the switch this year to doing it the other way, putting them in JobTread and letting it push to QuickBooks. Now that you've made it so we can do it by cost code,
Yep.
So we just have to figure out how to change our system and make that work.
I think you were one of the first to ask us for that many moons ago when you joined us, and we finally got around to it a month or two ago.
Yeah. That's so. With that in mind, I think we're hoping over the next couple of months to figure out how to make that switch and put them in JobTread first and let them push to CoConstruct. I still have some kinks to work out with billing in CoConstruct so that I can do
billing in QuickBooks. You mean, right?
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm doing my billing currently in QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. And I'd like to end up doing it in JobTread first. We're experimenting with that, and I probably at some point need to reach out to you or Travis and figure out a couple of things. So we're trying to make that transition. We really would like to. I feel like with the new features you've introduced, we're really close to being able to just do it in JobTread and let it push to QuickBooks and just deal with the strictly bookkeeping stuff over there that's not job related.
Yeah. So would you, again, given that you did work at CoConstruct, do you think that's kind of where you kind of learned the importance and the value of systems and processes? And how has that helped you to scale the business, if you will?
Yeah. So I'll say that I'm a work in progress when it comes to systems. So yeah, my time at CoConstruct, I saw, and even, before that, I got involved with the Home Builders Association heavily when I was in New Hampshire, and just getting exposed to what other builders are doing. And frankly, since JobTread Connect, we've put together a little, think tank, I call it. We have a group of 4 builders that we sort of just kind of met each other and made connections, and we do a bi-weekly sort of roundtable call, and we talk about what everybody's doing, both in JobTread and just in general, with systems and things like that. So, with all that experience over the years, like I know roughly what needs to be done, and now it's just a matter of making the rubber hit the road and doing it in a way that, one thing I'm good at is figuring out how to solve a problem or set up a system. One thing I'm not good at is following the system myself. And I know that about myself. I figured that out over the years. So one of the things that I need to do is make sure as I grow my team, is have people that are good at following systems better than me.
I think
I can set them up.
Documentation can help force yourself to write down here's the playbook, here's how we're going to do it. Right. Sure that, you obviously got to model it for the team too. But, so that's neat. So you met those other builders at JobTread Connect, hadn't known them before, and you guys just formed this group and started meeting.
Sat down at the bowling alley and got talking to someone at the table in front of me, and then we connected afterwards, and we exchanged phone numbers as we talked and realized that our businesses were kind of similar. And then he had connected with another builder who had also connected with and the four of us just put together this ad hoc group. And so it's like our mini builder 20 group. This is also builder 4 group. We all do similar stuff, but in different markets.
I mean, I think that's so valuable, like, just and that you guys kind of took that initiative. I mean, like so many times, I see a lot of contractors and really just business owners in general who, it's as you know, I mean, it can be lonely at the top. And if you just, think that, it's all on you and you take all that pressure, like that's not the case. Like finding people, who have similar businesses, maybe across the country, but like to be able to have that, group to bounce ideas off of, to collaborate with, like, you're not alone, like there's so many people that are in a similar situation, but like you got to kind of figure out how to find them. And then, it sounds like, whether it's a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however often you get together, like it's such a great way to just kind of have that, that support system around you to, to help you keep growing and keep, overcome challenges. I mean, I'm sure, everything's not always easy and, just,
I think there's 2 main benefits. Like you said, one of them is, that you see what other people do and you talk about how to solve a problem, and you hey, let me look at your checklist for quality control. Hey, let me look at yours, and you get ideas, and it's sort of like the, how you do things and sharing expertise.
Yeah.
But the other thing is really knowing that you're, as corny as it sounds, like you're not alone. Other people, so like we had a discussion a couple weeks ago, and we all said, hey, what's the biggest bonehead thing you've done that cost you a crap ton of money? And it was really great to know that that the thing that I had done that had cost me like 20 grand did not make me the biggest bonehead in the group. That, other people had done bonehead moves that had cost them tens of thousands of dollars also. And sometimes that's just good. A little reassurance that you're not an idiot, right? That everybody else puts on their pants one leg at a time, just like you, and we're all figuring stuff out, and we make mistakes. And
are you willing to share your $20,000 mistake with us?
Yeah. So this is going back years ago. I just completely left an HVAC system out of an estimate. So I did an estimate for a house, when I was in New Hampshire, and it was relatively early in my career, and just estimating on a spreadsheet at that time. And, wasn't necessarily a great template or whatever. And we were 2/3 of the way done with the house, and I got the bill from the HVAC guy, and I looked to see how it matched up with my estimate, and looked in the estimate, and lo and behold, that number was not there. And it just had not made it to the estimate of the contract, so that customer got a free HVAC system.
Did you try to go back to him and no?
No. For better or worse, I would rather eat it than go to them and say, because in my mind, if it's a contract price and my contract says I'm providing a house with this HVAC system in it, and this is the number.
Now.
If it's a change order, it's a change order.
Yeah.
But on a contract price, like if it just took me more labor than I thought it was going to take, well, that's my problem. Now, if it's time and materials, then that's the customer's problem.
Must have been a larger job to not notice, that big of a line item missing.
I mean, it was a whole house, I think, back then, and this is probably 20 some years ago. It was maybe $450,000. So, a mid-size house, nothing super fancy. And I just didn't notice it. And the kicker was, on that same house, there was, I didn't have a materials escalator in my contract at the time. And there was a hurricane or something, and then something happened in China, and all of a sudden there was like this shortage of plywood. And all the sheathing on that house went up by like 2.5 times, similar to what happened during COVID when all the materials shot up. And I ate like $12,000 in plywood because it was just, it went up that much in the course of the job. So you learn some expensive lessons when you work for yourself.
The material price escalation clause is a good one for everyone to have in there for sure.
Yeah, I have, and that there's less. When you're doing remodels and stuff, there's less risk. You don't have a big pile of lumber, but if you're doing a house, for sure, but that's just part of my contract now, the materials escalation clause. And I've used it once. During COVID, stuff was pretty unstable, and I would let people know. I would go out of my way to let people know, hey, there's a materials escalation clause in here. And I worked it actually both ways. I said, things doubled overnight. If they settle back down, when I go to buy your stuff, if it's cheaper and it's by more than 10%, then I'll work with you to return some of that money. But on the same hand, if it goes up, we're going to talk about that too.
So when you think back, just kind of however long, I mean, what would you say has been, the biggest challenges for you to building this business and getting to the point where you're doing, multiple millions in sales?
I think the challenge is, it's consistency is one challenge. Like knowing what to do and doing it are two different things, right? Like a lot of people have good ideas, a lot of people know what to do, but doing it is a whole other deal. And so consistency has always been a challenge for me. I would say finding people is a big challenge. Even when I was in New Hampshire and we had like a 12-man crew, we would find that we would hire 2 and fire 1 and hire 2 and fire hire 3 and fire 2 is that was the ratio we figured out, that if we wanted one person, we had to hire 3, fire 2, hire 3, fire 2 to build, one at a time. And that's like the challenge I'm facing right now is, can I find somebody that has enough experience to be actually useful rather than someone I have to spend more time training, that they can take workload off of me instead of create additional workload for me. And that's difficult when you have, years and years of experience that make it so stuff is second nature to you and know what to do that other people don't.
So knowing what you know now, just kind of and sort of wrapping this up, like for those out there who, earlier on, in their career and their kind of, wherever they are in their business, journey, what advice would you give to them? What do you wish you would have known, starting off that now that you think might help them to, save a couple hard lessons along the way?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things I would do as sort of new guy in the business is get involved with the Home Builders Association or some sort of local association where you can network with other builders. Go to Job Tread Connect, go to the Builder Show. Maybe you don't have to go every year, but connect with other people who have done it for a while. See what they're doing, talk to them, learn from them. And then I would say, the other thing is that, again, maybe it sounds stupid, but it's kind of, it's always darkest before the dawn. I've found that over the years, I've been through some crappy times. The Great Recession was not a lot of fun. And I'll have, to this day, I'll get a call from a customer or a subcontractor about something going on a job, and your heart just drops. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, how are we going to solve this problem? Or is this going to be and you just got to go through it and just sort of know that you're gonna work it out. You're gonna figure it out. Most problems you're going through won't sink you. There is a solution somewhere, and you just need to find it and keep going. And then be prepared to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. Right. So a lot of times you might go through a couple of years, you feel like nothing's changing. It's the same. I'm not really growing. Nothing's happening new and exciting. And then all of a sudden, but if you're networking and you're talking to people and you kind of know what you need to know and you're putting in the work, then all of a sudden, you find this crew, or you get paired up with this architect, or, we've started to make connections with local architects and things that, I've been 7 years in this area now doing business, and I'm finally feeling like I'm starting to get plugged into the community more and able to make those connections where I can now ratchet up to the next level and sort of become known amongst the local architect scene and stuff like that. And so it's just sort of that opportunity started presenting itself. I I ran into someone who was an architect. Hey, let's have lunch, and just sort of taking advantage, keeping your eye open, and then taking advantage of those. So your business growth won't look like this. It might look like this, then this, and then this.
Yeah.
That, and just be ready for it.
Yeah, that is all great advice. I mean, I always hate when I hear people like, oh, you're just so lucky, or that guy's, just, always has good luck come to him, and I'm so unlucky. It's like, man, it's all about, putting yourself in the right situations and, seizing those moments and those opportunities, and you got to be looking for them though, right? Like, I mean, you don't have your eyes open, and if you're not kind of like trying to think about, what could happen here, what could I do? What are the right things to follow through on? It's all about seizing the right opportunities, but you got to be looking for them, and you got to put yourself in situations where they can come about. You can't just sit back and do nothing and think that just things are going to fall out of the sky and happen to you. It's like, no, you got to get out there and you got to go make those things happen yourself. And
we tend to get our blinders on because we're doing the day to day. We're trying to get through today, and sometimes you just got to pick your head up and look around a little bit and see what's going on.
Yeah. And even, just the networking thing, like, to reiterate that, like, again, I hear all the time people like, oh, well, I don't want to network with people that are, that are my competition. And it's like, I mean, one,
Yes,
there is an abundance of work. There's not enough, supply to fulfill the demand here, but, fine. Even if you don't want to go network with the guys in your local area, but like, there are so many national groups that you can join where you can meet people all across the country, even all across the world that, like, again, they're going through the similar, challenges that you are. And it's so important though that, like, again, you try to find those opportunities to get involved, to be able to network with others. And, clearly it's worked really well for you. And, I think that's just great advice.
It's interesting because you said network with other builders. I think about 50% of my work last year and this year came from other builders. So I have a builder that I'm friends with, and he's like, hey, I can't do this job. You want to do it? Yeah, no, great. And so, actually 50% of my work this year is people that were referred to me from other builders.
Yeah, that's great. And again, I mean, I hear it all the time. Once people realize they can work together with the other builders in their local community, yeah, I mean, like, some jobs are better suited for others, and you guys just kind of figure out the right ones for each other, and you can pass leads back and forth all day.
Yeah, find it. If you're a remodeler, find a builder that, people are asking him about remodeling and he doesn't want to do them.
Yep.
Right? Go find a couple builders that they don't want to do kitchen jobs, but you do, and you'll get referrals from them all the time.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, look, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, hearing more about, how you've, kind of started with your father's business and then ended up kind of creating your own. Again, it's always very inspiring to see people who've been able to successfully, build companies, and it's just, really awesome to hear that, you have been the guy that has always done right by the customer, whether you forgot to put the HVAC system in their quote or just had to come out and kind of, do whatever is right by them. I think that's why, you're getting so many word of mouth, so many referrals, people that, they just know that you're an upstanding, builder. And, I've the work I've seen that you've done, it's been top notch. So, I just appreciate, your involvement in the job trade community. Appreciate you coming on, sharing your stories, helping others, to be able to build successful businesses, means a lot to me. And I'm excited to see you hit your goals this year and, hopefully grow that team. Maybe you'll be able to, take on, even more jobs and keep building the business. Cause, I have no doubt that you're going to do a great job.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the product that you guys have put together, because that's been a big help to us in our success over the last couple of years. Our growth, 80% last year from the year before, and this year probably another 50% on top of that, and that's a lot of that has to do with being able to run estimates through JobTread.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, and your experience is very helpful as well. So please do keep sharing the feedback and the ideas how we can keep improving the product. That's how we can help each other, and it's worked great so far. So I'm excited to see what comes for all of us. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.